Good afternoon, good morning, everyone, depending on where you're joining us today. Thank you all so much. I think we're starting to plateau a little bit with the attendees, but we'll start to kick it off, and we're most likely going to get a few more come on while I'm doing a quick introduction. So I just wanted to very quickly first start off by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. So just to give you a bit of structure on how today is going to run, is we're going to have initially a 40-minute panel session with the people, obviously, that you can see on this call at the moment. After this panel session, we're going to have, I think there's 6 or 7 different employer presentations. They'll have about 20 minutes to do a presentation. You can do a Q&A, again, ask questions through a Q&A function as well. For the students that are currently on this, this call, there's a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. For any questions that you want to ask, if you can please ask the question through the Q&A, it will give myself and the panelists the option to either answer the question live, which we'll do if it's a bit broader of a question, or the individual panel members or myself can answer the question directly. Just if you can stray away from answering the questions on the chat, because sometimes we might miss the questions that come through there. Initially, I just want to quickly go around the room, introduce everyone so you know who is on this panel session. So we'll start with yourself, Daniel, if you can just introduce yourself and what your organisation does.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Elliot. So my name is Daniel DeSalvatore. I'm the recruitment specialist for the graduate program team here at DXC Technology. So I work within our team to manage all the applications that come through to actual graduate hire. So I get the enjoyment out of doing that. What DXC actually does, we're a business-to-business IT services firm that works, very closely with businesses in more of a consulting and delivery way. So yeah, really helping them with their IT needs and anything that they generally have issues with, they come to us for, fixes.
Brilliant. Thanks, Daniel. Nice to meet you. How about yourself, Danny?
Yes, I'm Danny Story. I work within our digital modernisation practice at Leidos. So I'm technical. I'm a solution architect by role, and I work with my global colleagues and local teams to design and implement quite complex IT systems. Leidos works primarily with government customers across a really complex problems, I suppose, in defence, in taxation office, in healthcare and the like. So yeah, really interesting, complicated projects, primarily with government customers, obviously ICT based.
Fantastic. Thanks, Danny. Nice to meet you as well. What about yourself, Monique?
Hi, everyone. Lovely to be here. My name is Monique, or Mon, as some people like to call me. I am from Xero. I'm the graduate experience advisor here. So I take care of the end-to-end recruitment process across Australia for all of our grad and intern roles. Xero, if you're unfamiliar with what we do, we are a small business accounting software company. So we create all of that beautiful software that people use to either manage their small businesses or for accountants and bookkeepers. We've surpassed recently 4,000 staff globally. We're getting closer to 5,000 every day. We're used in over 180 countries globally, and we have over 3 million subscribers to our software. So while we work with small business, we're not small. And yeah, we definitely always have to preface that. And yeah, very excited to be answering all of your questions today.
Fantastic. Thanks, Monique. I've been using you guys for probably 5 years now, so I don't know who else I would use, to be honest. So, and last but not least, yourself, Jessica.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Jess. I use the pronouns she, her, and I'm the talent programs lead here at Canva. So I have the joy of creating pathways to for people to join the Canva rocket ship across all life and career stages. If you haven't heard of Canva before, we are an online visual communications platform with a mission to empower the world to design. So it's a simple way to communicate visually. So whether you're creating a presentation, infographics, TikTok videos, t-shirts, and much more. So we currently have a design community of over 75 million monthly active users, which, to put that into perspective, is 3 times the population of Australia using Canva every month. And we're only 1% of the way there. So excited to be here with some other awesome panelists.
That's great, Jessica. Funnily enough, my best friend's cousin is Melanie Perkins, which is super interesting, and she's just the loveliest person ever. So it's a good little 360 there. So now we'll open this question up to we'll go around the room again, because I think it's always good to understand like the type of advice you give to students. We've got about 110 students who are going to listen to this at the moment, so I think that's a really good amount of students to learn from the different panel members on this session. So we'll go back to yourself, Monique. So what's the most important piece of advice you give to students who want to work in the technology sector?
Don't be afraid to apply for all of the jobs. Like I can't iterate that enough. You might feel, particularly with grad programs, that you might not have the right amount of experience or in the right area, or you're trying something new, and just have a go. You'll never know where you'll end up, and you'll find your feet eventually. So biggest advice is like, please just have a go and apply.
Fantastic. What about yourself, Danny? Any key advice you'd give for, I guess, students wanting to come into this sector?
Yeah, I think that probably the biggest piece of advice from me would probably just be, I guess, to keep an open mind. I think technology is evolving really quickly, and we all, anyone who works in technology is constantly learning to keep up with the changes. So I think you very much need a growth mindset and that lifelong learning kind of attitude. And obviously, coming straight from uni, you're not necessarily at a disadvantage because you kind of see the world differently. You've grown up with technology and the like. So I think you've obviously got things to offer, and I don't undersell that, would be my advice.
You probably might know more about tech than people on this call. So because you've grown up in a very different generation. So I think it's definitely leverage that as much as you can, for sure. And what about yourself, Jessica? Any kind of key insights?
Yeah, I think when it comes to echoing Danny and Mon, what they said, actually just giving it a go, really empowering yourself. You do know a lot and you are able to bring a lot of value to the table. Employers want that and need that. That's why we offer early talent roles. I think it's important to always let yourself shine through. So I'm jumping towards a little bit about the application stage, but just because you don't have industry experience, it actually doesn't mean you don't have relevant experience. Whether you're really involved in your sporting club, student society, or a non-for-profit, actually including that so we can learn about you on paper. But yeah, don't discount all the volunteering experience that you may have. We really want to hear it.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I think sometimes students can fall into the trap of only utilizing what they've, like, their university degrees or their transcripts, and they might have done some part-time work at McDonald's or whatever it is, but kind of thinking a bit broader, and like, were you a team captain at school, where like any sort of leadership capabilities that you have to try and shine those through. And that's a really good way to set yourself apart as well. And last but not least, Daniel.
Yeah, so I guess my advice is kind of mirroring the same sentiment as everyone else. Yeah, just be open to learn. There's so much in the field to do, and especially within our business, we do a bit of everything. So being willing and open to learn about different technologies and different ways of doing things is, yeah, really important. And I guess not only that, but I've lost my train of thought for a second. Being open to like trying different things, because there'll be a lot of times when you'll probably be working in a team on a specific project and doing something there with a business, but someone will come to you and be hey, I've got something else completely different that I think you'd be really great for. Just being open to saying yes and trying different things is, yeah, really, really good as well.
Be a sponge, as my dad always used to say to me. So.
Exactly.
Now this question's probably a bit more targeted to the individual companies. So it's more around what what you as an organization actually look for in an application. If there's anything that you've seen in the past that seems to stand out, that like if you see an application come through and it automatically goes to the top of the list for whatever reason. So Jessica, we'll come back to you. Like, is there anything that you guys look for in applications specifically, and then what do students actually need to show throughout that kind of recruitment process to progress, whether it be to psychometric testing or whatever the recruitment process is, to actually progress through those rounds?
Yeah, great question. I think something that we really look for, and I think it's going to be a bit of a common theme along this panel, is just that openness to learn and understanding, why they chose that company to apply for. And so once again, shining who you are comes through, whether you're leadership, while you're open to learning what your career goals are. It's also okay if you don't know your career goals. I think everyone on this call can agree we have taken a million different side paths to lead us to where we are today. And so that's what we'll kind of highlight in an application stage. I think what will really take you through the application process is actually your communication style. Never undervalue the ability to communicate. So what that looks like in an interview process is you may be working through a technical problem if you're applying to one of our software engineering roles. And it's not going to be an interview where you're paired with one of our engineers and it's just like coding in silence, because in reality, in the workplace, that's not how you work. So what you can do is, how are you thinking through this problem? Explain why you've chosen to propose that technical option in comparison to another. Work with your interviewer, because very well, you may be joining their team. So that's really what stands apart applicants, those who are able to talk through and collaborate in comparison to coding in silence. So that will be really big, set you up for success through the application stage.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Jessica. What about yourself, Danny? Anything specifically for Leidos that kind of takes them through those stages?
Yeah, so I think there's probably one generally for Leidos. They sort of look for really well-rounded students, I suppose. It's not necessarily just about academics. And for me personally, if I'm looking at two students, say, that did the same degree and have got a similar background, I can often tell that one's going to work harder and have more, I guess, carriage of their own career in things because they've spent some time on Coursera or LinkedIn Learning or whatever, and they've actually done some courses off their own back, and they've done more than is expected. I think you can really set yourself apart by going that extra little step, because a lot of companies are going to be looking at students who on paper look very similar, and it's an opportunity to stand out. So Leidos generally look for well-rounded students, and me personally, I like to see that someone's going to really I guess, take carriage of their own learning and development, because like I said just before, it's so important and things are constantly changing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that upskilling skill is not, it definitely shouldn't be discounted, because I think it's when you're competing, well, competing is probably not the right word, when you're coming up against students with very similar either degrees or similar experience to yourself, it's those little things that make quite a big difference. So are you upskilling? How have you written your CV? Grammar, everyone here will talk about grammar till the cows come home. Grammar is a really important one. But the little, like doing the little things well is always really important. But it's good to get a bit of context individually from these employers as well. Monique, anything specifically for Xero that you guys look for, and I guess how students can kind of go through the motions at your recruitment process?
Yeah, so back in the day when Xero was a lot smaller, we used to say, if you can sit down and have a conversation and show us that you can work in a team, then we'll teach you what you need to know. And that ethos in our grad program, like, it really hasn't changed. So now our grad program's a lot bigger, and we have to go through a lot more candidates. So we've thought about ways that we can recruit more effectively in an unbiased manner. So the start of our process is a lot of testing online, and we don't look at your CVs really. We don't really look at your transcripts. I don't care what your GPA is. For us, it's about potential, because it's a learning program. So we'll teach you what you need to know. We just want to see that you have the right alignment to our organizational values, and you demonstrating what we know will be successful within the grad program. So things like resilience and learning agility, a lot of the stuff that Danny and Jess have already mentioned is quite consistent across grad programs. You'll find, good communication skills and showing that lifelong learning attitude. All of that is really important for a lot of grad programs. Later on in the process, like, we do test your technical assessments and everything like that, but later on in the process, it's really about your passion for tech, your passion for working at Xero, and showing that you really want to get in there, sink your teeth into it, and learn a lot, and the grad program's right for you. So yeah, it's pretty open. I like to say that our application process, it's not Mount Everest, but it's not a walk in the park. So somewhere in the middle.
That's some really good insights. And I think it's interesting that you say, and we've actually just had a question come through around GPA, and isn't it a good indication for aptitude to learning and things like that? Like, is that a decision that the business has made at scale across multiple roles, or is it specifically around grad programs where you just thought, look, it's not a massively important factor for us anymore? Was it an important factor once upon a time for you guys?
Once upon a time, probably, but there's been actually a lot of research into the validity and reliability when it comes to a GPA versus performance prediction in the job. And GPAs are one type of learning, and it shows that you have a really good aptitude for that specific kind of learning within a university. But there's lots of different kinds of learning within the world, and there's so many different ways that you can show that. So there's actually not a very strong prediction within GPAs for job performance, actually.
Great insight. I think that's starting to shift at scale across a lot of different organizations at the moment, for sure. And what about yourself, Daniel, with DXC? Is there anything, I guess, outside of what the other panel members are saying? I'm going to try not to go to people last consistently, because otherwise you're kind of just reiterating the same thing over and over again. Is there anything specifically for you guys that you look for in an application, or anything different to what the other panel members have mentioned?
Yeah, I'll try not to repeat everyone's answers here. I guess we also do, similar type of application process through, your online testing, your video interviews, assessment centers, that kind of stuff. When we get to the point where we're actually looking at applications, and specifically like cover letters and resumes and things like that, I guess if we go into the specifics of it, the stuff we're looking for is, do you have an idea of where you want to go, and can you communicate that effectively in writing? Because that's really important. I mean, we work with clients face to face, sure, but when you're writing proposals and stuff to businesses, effective communication in writing is really important. So being able to convey what you want to do with your career is really important. Yes, it might not align perfectly to what DXC does or what other companies do, but just being able to communicate that, we can, like Monique's already said, we can teach you kind of the stuff that we do. We can't teach you sometimes how to, write properly. So there's that. Also, putting down even little things like the kind of tools you use, even in, like, I don't know, Jessica's already talked about, stuff that you do in your personal time as well. But like if you use a tool with doing stuff with your friends on the side, like even Canva, if you've used Canva before, putting that on your CV to be like, okay, I've used Canva. Is that a tool that DXC uses or we use with the client? Stuff like that. Really useful for us to find the right role for you internally. And a lot of companies will have an application process that allow you to kind of select a pathway, but putting those kind of skills and tools on your resume shows us as recruiters that, okay, you have these kind of skills, that this pathway might not be perfect, but we have other roles that are applicable for you. So that really helps us to put you in the right role for your career as well. So that's what I would suggest.
Yeah.
for us.
Brilliant. I think there's probably a couple of other, probably a basic one, but I think it's always good to mention this, especially when you're starting out, coming out of university and you haven't gone through recruitment process before and you might not have applied to jobs before. Being prepared is very, very important. So being prepared on, one, the companies you apply to, but if you go into interview stages, having a good understanding of what that employer actually does, and understanding the right questions to ask. So you can learn a lot of these things. Obviously, you can learn about it might be on Great Australia, but you can learn about these things on LinkedIn, on their website. So like going into a meeting with as much information as you can and what questions you're going to ask to get as much out. You're basically interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. You want to find out if the employer you're going to interview with is actually the right fit for you, because not every employer is the right fit straight out of uni. So it's always really important to learn as much as you can about that employer before you go into an interview with them, because it really shows in a meeting. I'm an ex-employer myself. I used to run my own grad program, so I can see when people actually know and they've done their research on our business, because they actually articulate, this is what you guys do, this is what I like about what you do. So it's a really good way to kind of set yourself apart to people who potentially don't do that as well.
Sorry, just to go back to that as well, Elliot, you were talking about like getting the little things right as well. As recruiters and looking through applications, it is a bit, sometimes you see an application come through and it's not for your company and it has some other company's name on it. It's a bit disheartening as a recruiter to see that sometimes. Obviously, it's not a great representation of yourself as well. So yeah, getting little things right, very important as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's when I was doing my recruitment, we had a relatively small intake. So if that happened, unfortunately, you'd probably go straight to the bottom of the pile, because attention to detail is really, really important. And it's something that everyone can do. So that's a really good point, Daniel, is like if you're doing cover letters, if you're emailing people directly, like getting like the name, the spelling, all those little things right. So you're focusing, the employees are going to focus on what you're looking to, I guess, put forward and what you're actually capable of, instead of potentially making a slight mistake that can be detrimental to that kind of really initial recruitment process as well. Because we do look at a lot of CVs, and we notice those things really, really quickly. So it's a really important one as well. We've had a couple of questions come through. I'm just going to keep the questions coming through because we're going to stop throughout and just answer, especially if there's consistent ones that are coming through. We've had a couple come through around mature age students. So it'd be interesting to get your thoughts. Feel free if you've got a kind of response around it as to what your thoughts are around kind of mature age students, like maybe reshaping their careers, or just in general mature age students wanting to go into graduate programs, and kind of where your business sits for that as well.
I'd love to jump in on this question, because it's something that Canva has started to explore this year. So I think, first of all, kudos. That's a massive achievement to go, no, I want to pivot. I want to look at something that I'm more interested in and my values lie. So great job. There's so much value that you bring as a mature age student. I think it depends on where you are in your journey. By that, I mean, if you've been in industry for 10 plus years, then when you graduate, think about if you're actually going to be learning the skills that you have a gap in. So for those who have more experience in industry, you may be able to network, you may be able to, your learning style, you know how to communicate in multiple kind of methods. Are you going to get that from a graduate program? Or are you actually going to get that from a program that is built for industry pivoters? So, for example, Canva has just launched our product acceleration program, which takes those who are mature age students or just those who are wanting to make a pivot in their career to join the product management specialty. And it's tailored for those individuals who they've gone through their first journey as graduates before. So just speaking to the recruiter about that, is this the program for me, or is there another program that your company has built that may take me from here to there rather than those initial learning skills. Yeah, well, would be what I would recommend.
Oh, it's a really good response. Anyone else want to jump on? I can see your hands up, Monique. I'll let you go.
Instead of doing this, it might be a bit nicer. Our only requirements for the grad program is that you have less than 12 months full-time professional experience in the relevant field that you're applying for. So we love career changers, people who maybe they've spent 10 years in HR, they've gone and done a boot camp at General Assembly and coding, and they want to work with us as software engineers. Beautiful. You know, we do have to be mindful when we're accepting people who have a lot more professional experience than, say, somebody who's fresh out of a university degree after doing that immediately post high school. But we try to tailor our development programs to adjust that. For us, the way that we see a graduate program, it's not about age, it's about experience in the field specifically. So we are very open to mature age students, career changes, all of that.
Yeah, I would probably echo that, what Monique said. Yeah, ours is very similar. I think we do the last 2 years. As long as you've finished a degree in the last 2 years, you're eligible to apply to ours. And we, as part of the grad program, we tailor our training programs for the first 3 months to your recent background and experience and the role you're moving into. So if you already have that kind of background and experience at a more general level, we won't, make you redo it again, kind of thing. You'll be able to start at what skill level you're at currently. So yeah. We recently took on, I think there was a primary school teacher in our last intake, as now she's moved into a more technical field because she's done a Bachelor of IT as a mature age student. So yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, I'll just jump on that as well. So from a Leidos perspective, our requirement is that a student has to have completed a degree after 2018. We've got quite a few career change and mature age grads at Leidos at the moment. We've actually got one whose son is starting uni this year. So I'm kind of, I guess, give you that idea of age range. I also think there's a lot of value that career change grads bring in their previous lives and previous careers, and lots of skills that are somewhat transferable, particularly those communication, collaboration, problem solving, those sorts of skills that are quite, I suppose, universal and very important. I'd also just say, though, that depending on the background and experience, again, someone mentioned earlier, having a chat with the recruiters is probably not a bad idea, because sometimes the graduate program might not be the only avenue. There might be other direct entry or skilled or other pathways that might exist. So it's definitely worth reaching out to the recruiters and having a discussion about your background experience and what you can bring, because it's obviously got value, and the grad program is just one avenue.
Fantastic. No, some really good responses to that question. There's another couple of questions that have come through that are quite similar that I just want to throw out to the panel again. So it's more so around the type of qualifications. So I guess the first part of the question is, do students need to have like an IT and computer science degree to be relevant to come into your tech program or into your business? And also, do you accept students who don't have university degrees? So for example, they might have a diploma from TAFE, for example. I'll throw it out again. Whoever wants to put their hand up can go for it.
I might jump in first. We don't have any degree requirements for our grad program. For our internship, you do have to be a penultimate year student, and that's because we hire interns with the intention of bringing them in. Say these years interns, if it all goes well, we want to have them in for the 2024 program. So not very suitable to people who are looking for full-time work more immediately. So we recommend you just filter like straight into the grad program. But yes, we don't have any degree requirements. There is technical screening within our process. So if you are looking at, say, our engineering roles, you need to have some competence in coding. You don't need to know every coding language out there, but some competence in it. But you could be self-taught and be applicable to our roles as well. You could have an arts degree. I don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. ours is open to students with all types of degrees, even though we're very much a technology company. As long as you're willing to learn a little bit about technology and work in the industry, that's 100% fine with us. We have we have worked with a lot of different clients within a lot of different industries. So there's always a need for skills that might not be, straightforward technical skills. So, anything from civil engineering through to finance, you will use it with a certain client. So various backgrounds are accepted for us.
Yeah, likewise for us here at Canva. So our program is actually called Launchpad Program. So that means it's irregardless of whether you've graduated from high school, diploma, university. It's a program that's built for those at the start of their career. So it's a 12-month professional development program, which focuses on connection and technical skills as well. So no specific qualification requirements, no.
From Leidos' perspective, it needs to be a bachelor or master's degree for a grad program, but we do have other pathways, which are sort of like training paths, I suppose, for those that might not have a degree or have a diploma or a certificate or something like that. So for the grad program, bachelor's or master's, and for no particular field, obviously, it'll have to be somewhat relevant to be able to move into certain types of roles, but broadly a couple of different pathways for those that don't hold a bachelor's or a master's.
Beautiful. Now we've got about 6 or 7 of these questions which generally come through in these fairs, and it's a pretty simple yes/no question. If you accept international students or not, if you students who are on visas, so probably a quick yes/no for this will probably suffice, I think.
So for our graduate program, we only take candidates with citizenship or permanent residency, just because of the range of projects you'll get put on. You'll eventually have to get put on a public sector client that requires, a clearance of some sort. So yeah.
Things with Leidos will be very similar for the same sorts of reasons. Obviously, public sector customers, we do have citizenship and security clearance requirements often.
We take international students for both our internship and graduate roles.
Same here, we do as well. I just need you to be located in Australia or New Zealand. But you can be an international student, that's fine.
No remote roles, Monique?
Not in the grad program, but we do offer them afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thanks for pointing that out, Monique. Also for Canva, Australia or New Zealand.
It's really good. Now we'll probably, there's a few other questions that have come through, but there's just one other question that I wanted to put out to the panel. We've got about 10 minutes left, so it'd be good to get through this question, then we can open it back up to the Q&A. So and we'll start with yourself, Daniel. So for students who do actually land a job with DXC, what advice would you give them to firstly survive their first year, and more importantly to thrive in that first year? And what are things that they shouldn't do? So what are the things that you've seen happen and it's a big red flag? Is there any specific things that you'd give advice around for that?
Yeah, I guess one thing that I wish I knew when I started as a graduate was just to ask questions, ask as many questions as you can, because you'll always come across things that you don't know, and asking questions at that point in time so they're fresh in your mind is really important. And everyone around you doesn't expect you to know everything from day one. So don't be shy, definitely present your ideas, because the reason we bring graduates into our organization is to bring fresh ideas and bring new things to the table that we might not have thought about with our clients. So ask as many questions as possible. And one thing not to do is be quiet. Make sure you speak up and be involved as possible, because that's what you're there for.
Beautiful. Danny?
I think my main thing, and I've mentored quite a lot of grads in the past, I think having opportunities to be able to build time management skills. Often in the workplace, it becomes a bit more important to prioritize, tasks and different things with your workload. It's an area where a lot of grads tend to feel overwhelmed. So it's an area that I would suggest, focusing on, so that, and building good coping mechanisms and switching off and good work habits. I think we're sort of constantly trying to train people out of burning themselves out and those sorts of things. So I think, you know, the last few years working from home and all those sorts of things have just made it more challenging. So I would say early in your career, trying to build good habits around work-life balance and around time management are really important and become quite critical for success.
Fantastic. Jessica?
Yeah, both great points. And echoing Daniel a little bit here, is to actually just embrace the learning journey. At times it may feel uncomfortable just to be in that constant state of learning, but trust the process, ask lots of questions, create a network around you. So whether that's a mentor you can go to, or the fellow graduates or interns around you who are going through the same journey, build that support network. And also, like Daniel said, sometimes it can feel like you're asking too many questions. The worst thing you can do is go silent and just kind of struggle in that I have no idea what's next. You actually are not annoying anyone with your questions. It's totally normal to ask plenty. So please speak up. We're here to support you and guide you through this journey. And by the end of the 12 months, you're going to look back and be like, wow, okay, I have grown a lot. So don't forget to look back and reflect on all that you've achieved too.
Absolutely. I don't know about everyone else on this call, but I'm 10 years into my career and I still ask a lot of ridiculous questions. So they never stop. So they're really good. So I think it's just not being afraid to ask those questions. Always, I think it's important, the more experience you get, you try and find the answer yourself first. When you're fresh out of uni, it's quite difficult. It can be quite difficult to do that because you actually don't know where to look. So it actually takes more time. So the best thing, like year on year, you start to figure out where you can actually find the answers to your questions. But initially, just ask questions, or even collaborate with the other grads in your program. There's a lot of different things you can do, but never shy away from asking questions because they don't stop. They keep going. What about yourself, Monique, over at Xero?
Oh, look, some amazing points across the board from all of the employers. And we try to set it up so that we have as much developmental opportunities, for you, and you try things out. We love it when people learn that they really don't like a particular area of work, because we think that's just a really valuable thing to learn. But I would say, and just kind of taking a bit of a step back here, burnout and imposter syndrome is rife in grads at the moment. You've gone through so much studying online at the moment, and maybe even feeling disconnected from other people. So if you feel like maybe you're not well placed or ready for a grad role, or you're exhausted, or you're lowering resilience at the moment, you're not alone in feeling like that. And whenever you do start feeling like that, please let people know and get the support for it. And just have a little bit of, faith and courage in your experiences, and that you're there for a reason.
Beautiful. Now, there's a fair amount of questions that we're probably not going to get to. So what I'll ask the panel members to do is, after this panel session finishes, just stay online. If you can just answer as many of the questions you can directly, because there's one, I guess, a bit of a sign off that we always like to get to, so you can do your final little pitch as to why students should come work for you. So we'll start with Danny over at Leidos. What, in one sentence, why should students come and work for Leidos?
I think people come work for Leidos to work with really great people. It's definitely one of my favourite things, and the culture at Leidos is very supportive and provides training development opportunities across the board, not necessarily a career ladder, but they refer to it, I guess, as a climbing frame. Also, I think we get to work on some pretty cool, very complex projects with the nature of our customers. And I think, for somebody who likes solving really complex problems and working on, very challenging, meaningful projects, then Leidos is a great place to work.
Beautiful. Thanks, Danny. What about yourself, Monique?
Look, we have an amazing culture at Xero, and I can bang on and on and on about how cool it is to work with us. But for the grad program specifically, there are zero expectations on our grads on delivering certain things. All we want is our grads to learn. So you pretty much get like a free year to discover and to try different things and to learn with no impact on your career whatsoever. So you can really fail comfortably, but you can also really shine quite comfortably. And I'd say that's quite a unique opportunity.
Fantastic. What about yourself, Daniel? I'm not putting you last again. Sorry, Jess.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, look, at DXC, we're really people focused. So one of the main things with our new CEO who came in 2019, he put a big focus on employee engagement and, bringing together the people with such a disconnected world, I guess, currently, especially working virtually. Yes, it's an ethos that we've kind of got at DXC where we all work virtually, but we also have offices and teams and things like that to support each other. So having that people first mentality is really good, and it really encourages our grads to network internally as well. So I would say that's probably DXC's biggest selling point currently. But yeah, our graduate program also really good for our graduates because we will have networking sessions constantly. Regular coffee checkups, so you get to have coffees with different graduates and even previous years graduates as well, and learn new things about the business. So plenty of chance to network with not only people that you join with, but also other people within the company.
Fantastic. Thanks, Daniel. Last but not least, Jessica.
Yeah, I would say for Canva, if you're wanting to have a global impact and empower others for the better from the very start of your career, literally from the first day, if you want to, then you should come and join Canva.
Awesome. That was one sentence. So that's about all. Now, we do have a fair amount of questions, as I said, panel members. So if you just want to stay on and just type any of the answers that you can to those responses. If not, I might be able to get some presentations to answer those questions throughout the day. But to all the students who come on for this panel session, thank you so much for listening. I hope we've learned something out of this 40 minutes. There's a lot of really good points and a lot of different points from the panel members as well. And to the panel members, thank you so much for giving us your time and just giving some advice to the students who've come on today.
Thanks, Elliot. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
No worries.
so
Thanks,
much.
guys.